here. I'm in Melbourne. We've got the match on Sunday between India and Zimbabwe. Today, of course, it is Friday the 3rd. That match, in fact, Friday the 4th of November. That match will be on Sunday the 6th. But today we have a number of permutations, as I will call it. Permutations in terms of games that will help decide and shape the semi-finalists. Now, there is an interest that India are now topping the pool in Group 2, with South Africa having lost last night. That's of interest to the group. They will decide perhaps where they'll play. At this stage, Manu John saying Group 1, New Zealand versus Australia. There's New Zealand, Australia. Group 2, India versus South Africa. I should be a shake. The fact is, good morning. Well, it's afternoon here, I think, in Melbourne. The reality is that Australia play Afghanistan, I think, later today, as far as I'm aware, which will have some bearing on the final four. Of course, it's hard really to say how well Australia will go, because they are having to deal with a bunch of bonus points. So at the moment, New Zealand are on 4 points with 2 wins, 1 loss and a no result. England on 4 points as well with 2 wins, 1 result, 1 loss and no result. Australia the same, 4 points as well. Even Sri Lanka are on 4 points, but they've had 2 wins. I'll get this right. So they're all on 5 points. New Zealand, England and Australia are all on 5 points. And they're the three that will probably dictate terms. Unless something dramatic happens and Sri Lanka get through, I can't see that happening. So that's where we're looking at that. India, South Africa, 6 and 5 points respectively. With Pakistan doubtful, Bangladesh, the other threats there. So let's just go back a step and let's have a look at today's match. We've got Ireland versus New Zealand. It's significant enough for Ireland to win, of course, but New Zealand's where it really matters. New Zealand currently, if they win that match, they will top pool as a Group 1 and will play a semi-final more than likely it's going to be interesting because we're not sure where they're going to play. They could well play in Adelaide, but if Australia somehow get through it, they'll play a different permutation there. So realistically, New Zealand win, they're through. Next game is Australia versus Afghanistan. Australia win, they've got a chance of being placed in the top 4 teams in the semi-finals, but may not get through. Then you have tomorrow, which is Saturday, England versus Sri Lanka. That's a very important one for England. If they win that, they'll go through and Australia won't. And that'll be followed by South Africa versus Netherlands. Important again, because if South Africa win that, they'll stay in the top 4, but they may not be first. They may be second. Then Pakistan versus Bangladesh. Well, if South Africa were to lose, Pakistan were to beat Bangladesh, and heaven forbid Zimbabwe to beat India, but Pakistan might go through. But realistically, there's a lot of ifs and buts there. Pakistan need both India and South Africa probably to lose to have a chance. Yeah, that's the likelihood. With those, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left before the semi-finals. So realistically, New Zealand should beat Ireland. New Zealand will through. Australia will beat Afghanistan, which will mean that Australia will be in the possibility of being through. Only possibility, not probability. Sri Lanka, England, well, if England win that, they're through, and I'm afraid Australia won't be through. South Africa versus Netherlands, well, South Africa, when they're through, if they don't, they're at the mercy of Pakistan beating Bangladesh, and Pakistan could go through, or for that matter, Zimbabwe beating India, and also Pakistan going through. Some unlikely scenarios. Realistically, the likely scenario is that New Zealand and England will go through, and India and South Africa will go through. So that would mean that England could well play India in Perth. England could play India in Adelaide, and New Zealand would play South Africa in Sydney. That's probable makeup. Australia makes it through then they could play India and Sydney. That's how much of a topsy-turvy. So let's go through that again. If everything goes to plan and New Zealand beat Ireland, Australia beat Afghanistan, England beat Sri Lanka, South Africa beats Netherlands, and Pakistan beat Bangladesh, on top of that India beats Zimbabwe. If all that happens, realistically, New Zealand will top pool or Group 1. Group 1 with New Zealand, Group 1 with the second team, England. Group 2 will be India and then South Africa. So effectively, England will play India in the semi-final, more than likely in Adelaide, and New Zealand play South Africa in Sydney, with the two winners of those games going through to the final. And I've already predicted that India will beat, well, I actually thought it might be, if India would happen to be second, they would have been beaten New Zealand, went through the final and played England. But now, unfortunately, England and India are playing potentially in a semi-final rather than a final, which detracts from the potential of that being a wonderful grand final or final. So yeah, India would play England, that's a toss-up. And then South Africa will play New Zealand. I hope New Zealand win that. I'm saying they're going to win that. So it'll be a New Zealand versus England or India final. I think South Africa played pretty poorly last night, and they're showing me that they're not worthy of being in the finals. So the semi-finals will be on Wednesday the 9th of November at 7 p.m. local time. And the match in Adelaide would be also at the same time on the day after the Thursday, which leads to Sunday, the 13th of November, where I'm here in Melbourne, which is just over 8 days away. No, it's 8 days away, 9 days away. It's actually 9 days away. The final will be played here. So any questions, guys, ask me questions. Just to have a look where I am. I'm in my hotel room, as you can see. You can look out the window. We can have a look at what's out there. You can see the streets of Melbourne. We're on Flinders Street. You can see over there, there's a bit more of Melbourne you can see through the buildings. And out that way we can see what they call the Eureka. On the very right there, you can see the Eureka Tower where we were the other night, where we had Gavaskar and Sunil Gavaskar and Mike Clark in a process and like a tell-all of the thing. So let's go back again. Let's just get the standings going. So again, Group 1, New Zealand on 5 points, England on 5 points, Australia on 5 points, but the net run rates determine that New Zealand first, England second, and Australia third. Australia are almost a good 8 or 9 points behind, 0.8 or 9 points behind England. So England are plus 0.547 and Australia are minus 0.304. So not a good situation for, you'd think the 4 teams that are negative, they're all the ones that are not going to make it. And that's what I would suggest. Even Afghanistan's got minus 0.7, so Australia's got minus 0.3. And so England 0.5 plus, and New Zealand rampaging at 2.2. So New Zealand, realistically, if England and Australia both win, then that means that New Zealand could be out. It's possible. New Zealand lose. If New Zealand lose, England and Australia could both go through. That would be a bit of a shock, but it is possible that could happen. If Sri Lanka beat England and Australia or New Zealand lose, Sri Lanka could be through as well. Unlikely, but it could happen that Sri Lanka could go through. If Sri Lanka beat England and Australia or New Zealand lose respectively, New Zealand got beaten by Ireland or Australia get beaten by Afghanistan, then Sri Lanka could sneak their way in. Very unlikely. New Zealand's got about as much chance as Pakistan, I think, to make it through. They need a lot of teams to fall over in this last stage to be anywhere near a possibility of them winning. So New Zealand are likely to go through. You would have to argue. They'll probably beat Ireland quite handsomely. Whom are you supporting at this stage? Arun Singh, who am I supporting? Well, it's not about supporting a country like I'm Australian. Of course, I go for Australia, but I don't think they're going to make it. With England, New Zealand, New Zealand won enough times of late if they've been involved. So South Africa's going to choke. So I don't think they're going to get through. It's between England and India, but unfortunately England and India play in one semi-final. So they're not going to be playing each other in a final. And on that basis, you would think that England would have a chance over India. That's what I would think logically. Head says England, heart says India, but that's the way I look at it. Afghanistan, Netherlands, Zimbabwe, Ireland, who are the qualifiers that came through? All four of them are going to start to pack their bags to go. Bangladesh, very unlikely. Pakistan, with negative run rate, Bangladesh, they got no hope. Pakistan are in with a slight chance. If Pakistan beat Bangladesh, puts them on 6 points, and quite frankly, if India lose, then they're out. If South Africa lose, they are also out. South Africa are playing Netherlands, so you'd think they can't lose that. And India playing Zimbabwe, they can't lose that. So realistically, India and South Africa are going to go through Pakistan, they're going to come third, admirably so, but they will just be... India will get 8 points, which is the highest of any team. South Africa will go to 7, and Pakistan will be in 6. So, unfortunately, Pakistan had 2 losses. They should not have lost against Zimbabwe. That was the killer for Pakistan, because if Pakistan didn't lose against Zimbabwe, then they would be currently in... They would be in first position. One game dictates whether they go from third to first. It's pretty sad, isn't it? What's the commentary saying there? Okay, so yeah, that's the issue at the moment. Pakistan, had they beaten Zimbabwe, would have been on 6 points, and having had the one loss against India, beaten South Africa, which they did, meaning that they would have been on 6 points with India right now and would have been ahead on run rate, which would have turned the thing upside down. Pakistan and India would have been in the box seat, and if they won their last games, which they probably will, even if South Africa win, India and Pakistan would have been through. So Pakistan blew it because they got beat by Zimbabwe. That was their crucial loss so far. Otherwise, Pakistan deserved to be up there, and I did pick India and Pakistan to go through initially. In the case of the Group 1, it was always going to be, well, I thought England, and I thought Australia, but in fact New Zealand have trumped all of them, and they're in the lead at the moment. Only having won 2 matches though, with 1 match left. Australia, England and New Zealand are fighting for that top position. In Sri Lanka remotely are as well. Ireland, Afghanistan certainly not. So we're going to find out. So Australia beats Afghanistan, they'll go to 7 points, they'll temporarily lead. And Ireland beat New Zealand. So New Zealand and Australia will actually go to 7 points after today. And we'll see how good their run rates are. England beat Sri Lanka, well then they're probably going to push their way back into that top 2. Yeah, so and then the issue is where they play. Likelihood is that England will be second in their group and India top their group. England and India will play in Adelaide. New Zealand will top theirs, with South Africa going second. There'll be New Zealand and South Africa in Sydney the day after, on the 10th, with the 13th being back. Here I am now in Melbourne. So there's your scenarios. Very sad about Imran Khan. As you probably have heard, he was shot. It's not what anyone wants to hear or see. Not a pleasant situation. He's shot in the shin, so his survival rate's pretty damn good. His survival rate's pretty good, so we've got a pretty good situation there. I saw Arshdeep Singh and Sky Yadav there over at the Crown Metropoles where they're staying, and false claims that I was breaching privacy or when I was standing at the front of the hotel. I don't think so. It's quite embarrassing actually that that was transpired. New Zealand, England and Australia will get locked on 7 points. Where New Zealand will get through. Yeah, I think you're right. That's probably what's going to happen Monday, John. So New Zealand definitely will go through, and England and Australia will fight out their game with their positions based on run rate. That's more than likely the case. I would agree with that. So let's see who the teams will be. I put on my community page a picture of Imran Khan, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did. And there's a picture of Joe Solomon, who was a former West Indian great, and then a Lily bowling table. One of my videos on Sri Harsha Quick has gone 120,000, which I'm pretty happy about. More people should come across to my platform, I would hope. All right, so what do you reckon, guys? Let's go through the games real quick. So today, Australia, England, I feel it's going to be Australia. No, I don't think it's going to be Australia. Australia has to absolutely wallop Afghanistan. Absolutely wallop them. India can't take Zimbabwe lightly. I agree, Aaron. I agree with that. India certainly can't take. No one can take anyone lightly. We've already seen the damage Pakistan has inflicted upon themselves by getting beaten by Zimbabwe. Although Zimbabwe played pretty poorly the other night too. So yeah, you would think that on paper, today's matches will see New Zealand go through and Australia be in a position to go through. India will win against Zimbabwe. I agree. Manu John, I can't see them not doing. Okay, let's just go back to that table for a minute there. I'm not taking a photo, guys. I'm just look at that table. Look at that. If you go to my community page, I've got the table sitting there. Okay, but third or fourth one down. Yeah, and if you look at the way that works, New Zealand, as I was saying earlier, India is the only team to win 3 matches. Only team. After 4 matches, they're the only one to win 3. Good morning to Arroy, Rocks, Blog, hello, how are you? New Zealand, deservedly so, they didn't play well against, who they got beaten by? England. England are truly the favourites. Not necessarily in the point situation, but if they get through, they're going to be in with a massive chance. They can easily beat India, and then they'll be home and host in the final against whoever they play. So I'd say it'll be either in England. If the semi-finals work as Group 1, we have New Zealand and England. Group 2, we have India and South Africa. I think Punt should play in place of Karthik. I totally agree. Punt should be in there altogether. It's a huge... The problem is the neck runner is too close. You're from Bihar, India. How are you? Very good, very, very good. Look, India's probably very upset that Pakistan, that South Africa lost, actually. They would like to have been second in their group. Why? Because they would have played in Sydney against either probably New Zealand, and they had a good chance to do that. At the moment, they're playing England. They're playing the harder of the 4. They probably would think that was the harder of the 4, even though they've already been beaten by South Africa. A few of my fellow Indian commentators are telling me quite clearly that India shouldn't even get through the semi-finals and won't make the final, won't win. Well, that's all well and good, but you can't discount them at the moment, can you? And Australia were meant to be up there too, but they're fighting to make the final. Even England are fighting to make the final. Really, New Zealand and South Africa seem to be the 2 teams quietly have gotten through. Well, India Pakistan both will qualify. If India Pakistan that could happen, it can happen. So I think everyone much more. South Africa's already choking. That game last night was a horror for them. So again, if you look at the permutations, Pakistan beat Bangladesh, and India and/or South Africa lose their matches, the final match, then Pakistan will sneak in. Whenever Ponting says Australia in the final, his prediction is always going to run. Ruth, I don't know whether Australia in the final. They have to beat Afghanistan by an absolute country mile, and they have to also hope that New Zealand or England stuff around. New Zealand will win today. New Zealand's going to win today, okay? They're basically through.
Just in front of
what's going on here? Rapakshi's in front of... Rapakshi's in front of...
Do you like Taj Mahal?
Certainly in front of...
I'm trying!
Not in the front, so there's a Taj Mahal there. That's funny.
Just in front of Taj Mahal. It's actually very beautiful. I've been thinking.
So Maggie, when you're comfortable,
Quite funny.
Flaps.
Quite funny indeed. I'm just trying to pull up. Okay. So the fixtures, we'll go back to fixtures. Ireland are playing New Zealand in Adelaide. You would think New Zealand should manage on Perth, Western Australia. What about Perth, Western Australia? No, Ireland versus New Zealand are playing in Adelaide in only a matter of 2 and a bit hours. They're playing their match. New Zealand win that, they're through, and they'll be also number one in the table, and will play the first semi-final, more than likely in Adelaide, unless Australia gets through. Then Australia play Afghanistan, which will allow Australia to also move into the top 2 temporarily. Robert Eden, 1989. Australia's next game is today at 7 p.m. in Adelaide. They're playing Afghanistan. So Ireland play New Zealand today, and then Australia play Afghanistan. So those two teams win their matches, that's New Zealand and Australia respectively, then you'll have a situation where those two are topping their table temporarily until England plays. So that'll be today's results. New Zealand and Australia. New Zealand firming as the semi-finalists, Australia temporarily being the second. Then tomorrow at 7 p.m, the only match happening tomorrow will be between Sri Lanka and England. Ricky Ponting's talking a lot to the media. He must be getting paid by somebody. Sri Lanka versus England tomorrow, which will then determine Group 1. Because if England win and their run rate stays high, then it'll be New Zealand and England making the semi-finals. Then the final day, which is Sunday of regular play in the group stages, we'll see both South Africa and Netherlands play the first match at Adelaide, and then the very final match, on Sunday, it's actually 3 matches. So there's 2 in Adelaide, 1 in Melbourne. The 2 in Adelaide are South Africa versus the Netherlands, and South Africa win that, they're through. Pakistan play Bangladesh. If they win that, they're potentially in the mix. Then the final match, which is in Melbourne of the group stages, in fact of Group 2, will be Zimbabwe versus Melbourne, which I will be there for. Zimbabwe versus India, which I will be there for. And that'll decide India's fate as well, because India win that, which they should. They'll be top of the table, and that would mean that India will play against England in Adelaide. I think no team is weak. No team is weak. Well, it's not about weakness. There's 6 matches left, 3 in Group 1, as in Group 1 and 3 in Group 2, and they'll decide. And it is going to come down to the wire. It comes down right to the last match, actually, who makes the semis. But New Zealand, the first match of the last 6 to play today against Ireland, they win that, they're going to New Zealand will definitely shore up a semi-final berth. The next one, Australia versus Afghanistan. Australia will put themselves in the mix for final berth, and they'll get one. Saturday's first match, the last game of the Group 1 stage, we'll see Sri Lanka and England will help. So is Cameron getting a chance to unearth his best? Cameron Green should be in the bloody side, shouldn't he? Aaron Finch is not 100% at the moment. So, a few have got COVID floating around. I think Wade had COVID. So there's a few injuries and illnesses floating around there that should help decide this whole thing. So that's the way it is. So will Ireland beat New Zealand? They won't. New Zealand will win that. Will Afghanistan beat Australia? No, but they could make it close, which would be distracting for Australia's chances of making it. Then Saturday, probably the biggest one of the first 3 matches is the Sri Lanka versus England match, because by some fluke, Sri Lanka might get through, or England could shore up their position. England lost to Ireland. The match will be evenly played. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, what's the name of that now? England, at this moment, they just beat New Zealand quite comfortably. They've resurrected themselves. Yeah, but they didn't get beaten, and that's bizarre thing. You're right. But realistically, England versus India, if that's the first final in Adelaide, England in top form, and India arguably in top form as well. They've only lost 1 match to South Africa. It's going to be a close one. It'll probably be the match of the tournament in terms of significance. Arshdeep Singh is a player of the tournament, so far, my opinion. Arun Singh, I think, Virat Kohli's batting, he's got 82, 62, 12 and a 63. Scored the most runs in this tournament. scored the most runs for India in Australia, scored the most runs in T20 cricket, scored the most 50s, got a batting average of 53. Jesus Christ, Virat Kohli deserves all the compliments you could ever give him. Just go through that for a minute. Virat Kohli has a batting average of 53 in T20 cricket, has scored 3,932 runs. He's fast, maybe even more than that. He's fast approaching scoring the first batsman to score 4,000 T20 runs, leading there. He's scored the most 50s with them, 35 and 36. He effectively, VK is definitely there, Arun Singh, yes, and he's also, batting average of 53 in T20 cricket. That's pretty amazing, really. Seriously. So we shouldn't discount Virat Kohli. Again, most runs in Australia for India, in all formats. Most T20 runs for sure as well. Most runs overall for T20. Batting average 53, the only man anywhere near 50, over 50. Most 50s in its entirety. The guy's bloody champion. Did you get a chance to interact with Virat Kohli? No, I did not yet. Saw plenty of other players. We were at Akshar Patel and Bhavishwa Kumar. I've had punts. I've seen Chahal, Sky a few times, Ashdeep. I've seen all those guys. Also Siraj as well. I haven't had a chance to speak to Virat Kohli myself personally, no. Okay. All right, guys. Ask me questions. We've got a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to talk about. Will Ireland beat New Zealand? No. Will Afghanistan beat Australia? No. Pat will be happy to come in on your show. Rishabh Pant's a good friend of my friend Yashpal Erda. Rishabh Pant was on at the restaurant there at Masala Theory there in Sydney. Staying at the Crown Metropole now in Melbourne. So across the way over here. A couple of buildings across. I've got the river just next by. There's the Yarra River there. The Yarra, I think it's Yarra, where the Crown Casino is. We'll probably do a bit of a live from there a bit later. All right. We can go for a walk if you want later. We can go for a walk and I'll just get dressed and we'll go for a walk if you like. So I hope you'll view, liking and sharing. Okay, I was just checking on. I think the loss against New Zealand will hurt Australia more than Chile. Yes, it will. Australia are in deep trouble. Even if they beat Afghanistan, they have to absolutely thrash them and hope England do. Angel was telling I'm finally caught up for a live stream. Chance of India not making semi-finals due to rain. Well, no, I think there's going to be play here. Well, I'm in Melbourne at the moment, and this is Melbourne. I think Melbourne's looking pretty good to me weather-wise. There we are. Can you see it? That's Melbourne's weather at the moment. Melbourne's weather is looking pretty good to me. See a train through there. And Melbourne's weather is looking pretty good. That's Melbourne's weather there for you. Can you see it? Australia make, what was that comment? Yeah, alright, so go back to that list again. Just trying to yeah, so talking about when any game is scheduled. Now, India's game is scheduled for Sunday at 7 p.m. and the weather is meant to be suffice to be good. So I don't think there's any issue there with the weather, to be honest. So I wouldn't worry about that. Let's not worry about the weather for India. India has not had any weather problems for any of their matches at all. They've been very lucky. I think that luck will continue. It's live. Can Zimbabwe really have a chance? No, I don't think so. I doubt it. Very much doubt it. I very much doubt that there's going to be any chance of that happening. So we'll thrash Afghanistan hard. They're going to have to manage on. They're going to have to thrash them, not just hard, but And you would think so. I think South Africa has to worry about missing out due to rain, yes. They're playing, well, they could, potentially. Canberra should play, and yes, I would say Canberra should play. South Africa have a washout. That's a scenario I haven't really thought about, Let's have a look. Let's have a look at them. Scenario would be if South Africa, if this is in Adelaide, if they have a washout. So if they have a washout, the standings would be South Africa will start at 5 points. That would have to mean that Pakistan would have to win the match, and South Africa have a washout, and Pakistan win very, very comfortably against Bangladesh. Their net run rate might actually jump ahead of South Africa, it's right. But then they're playing at the same ground. So the washout, if the first game's cancelled, the second one's likely to be out as well, which means both are out. So that doesn't help Pakistan at all in that case. Because if South Africa's washout, the Netherlands on the same ground as Bangladesh and Pakistan, be highly likely that the first game would be abandoned, the second game on. That would be very, very unlikely. In fact, it's the other way around. No, it's not the other way around. It's South Africa would be the first match. Yeah. Someday, if there was World Cup in the States, I'd host you. They are building. Well, there's going to be 2024. There's going to be a World Cup in America. So there's going to be a World Cup. I think it's a T20 World Cup in America in 2024. 2023, there's going to be a 50 over World Cup, the ODIs World Cup in India. And I'm hoping to be both at the one in India and the one in America. Everything goes to plan, I'm going to be at both. So there you go. So you will see me. That's what I'm suggesting. We'll go out in a minute and have a look what's going on outside, shall we? Did you watch Jerry Kimber's? No, I didn't. That would be lovely. 2020, yes. I'll be there. Okay. So, no, I didn't watch Jerry Kimber's one. What's happening? What's happening with Manu John? Well, the name, I'm not sure what that name necessarily means, but there's a lot of permutations, as I said, lots of permutations. For those just joining us now, we can talk a bit more about that scenario, if you like. Should India fall into Group 1 rather than Group 2? Well, then it's not about falling into one group or the other, it's the way the cookie crumbles. I think Group 1 would have been harder, actually. Canberra it should be. Best match in this is what impacts it. Yeah, it impacts was the best match. England India will also be a great match, which will probably be the semi-final, and then the other New Zealand South Africa semi-final. It'd be interesting something between New Zealand and South Africa, whether New Zealand can handle, but not in T20. What? Let's have a look again. Let's have a look at what we've got. So the sky you can see there is blue today. You can see down the streets of. You can see the streets. Can see the streets. There's an aquarium there. There's a lot going on there. There's streets down there. We'll go for a walk in them, guys. Looks like very good conductor and Nick Nell, I suppose, as well. Yeah, they probably are. Manu John, nothing. Okay. So, yeah, Vikrant Gupta and Nikhil Nass are here. They're good mates of mine. I know them both very well. Should try and get a photo of those together. I haven't done that yet. It's the state of play as we see it. I'm hoping Mitchell Stark can do it in his first time. I don't know whether he's necessarily anything to get too excited about at the moment. Australian bowling's been very lacklustre. They're playing Afghanistan today. Well, then it's in the fate. It could well be Aaron Finch's last match. Could well be Steve Smith's last chance as well. Wait and see. Yes. Imran Khan, of course, that's a very sad state of affairs. No one wants a person of the credibility that he has got to be in that situation. We'll go for a walk, shall we, guys? I've got to get ready. So let me get ready and we'll have a look. Okay, hang on. Oops, just put the pants in. Okay. Pakistan falling. Zimbabwe made fun of Kutu. Well, do you think India should play Chahal to the yes. Ashwin has not been a great option for them. I have to agree. Do you have official discretion? Yes, Ram. Who is Ram? That's a great name, thank you. Why not Aksa? Well, Aksa Patel, bowling hasn't been great. England weaklings, and average bowling attack, Indian weaklings, average opening partnership too. Yeah, I think the weaklings are choking for a lot of those things we just talked about, if I'm being really honest. Realistically, choking is the big thing, to be honest. Hasn't been the worst of series, I must say, but it could be a lot better. Best T20 World Cup ever? Well, the one that West Indies won years ago was quite amazing. Australia, the 15 World Cup, which was a 50-over World Cup, wasn't it? That was pretty, was it 50-over World Cup? The 2015 World Cup in Australia, what was that, guys? Was it a T20 or was it a 50-over? Who can remember? Can anyone tell me? Was the T20 World Cup, 50-over, okay, 50-over stuff. Okay, it was with Mark Clark, yeah. Would be best if rain didn't cause havoc. Well, it's already caused enough havoc, Angel wins, I'm afraid. It certainly has caused a bit of havoc. Unfortunately. Ask more questions, guys. We've got more to talk about here. I could go out to Melbourne, could have walked to the Crown Metropolitan, see if the guys are there. So, there's all sorts of dust and dirt gets behind your ears in big cities, I'm afraid. It's awful. So, Shripali Virakoti, great player. For the love of the game, there's all these incredible posts, but for the love of the game. Rashmi Silva. Alright, let's get some more questions going, guys. I need questions to make this. Oh my god, come on. Some are saying Coley did the fake throw and filling it up. Absolute rubbish, absolute garbage. It annoys me. It was the most waste of time discussion I've ever seen happen. Absolute. So the situation with Imran Khan, there was not a one-man shooter. Bullets, I think, were fired from 3 spots from hidden men snipers in the building. A man with a pistol, I think it was a dummy gun, to take all shots off the sniper. So there was apparently more than one. Well, that's pretty scary, to say the least. They didn't succeed. I guess that's the main thing. They didn't succeed, that's the main thing. They didn't succeed in actually knocking off Imran Khan, which would have been a pretty sad. I had that video. I don't know what I did with that video. I had that video of, maybe I didn't take it. Let's look at my video situation. Let's look at the videos. Let me go back a little bit now. Back to when I was in Perth. No, I wasn't Perth. It was before that. Oh, I got manager on. You can't be nasty with that. That's not really fair. Looking for this video that I had from Barrel. We go to Bondi first, or we go there first? So theory. I went to Barrel. I went to Barrel. There we go. Here's Barrel. When did we go to Barrel? Can you remember? Maybe you don't remember when I went to Barrel last. It was only a short while ago. Let's have a look. No. Okay, here we go. How are Bahrain buses coping with Melbourne weather? They're freezing all over the country, as a matter of fact. Here we go. This is the one that I want to actually. I'm going to upload this. This was my little Bradman effort. This was quite a good effort. I'll get that uploaded. It was not loaded. So, how did he cheat? No one ever knows. It's all a bit of a furphy, guys. The whole thing about Vera Coley cheating. That's rubbish. Oh boy, too much discussion about such rubbish. Punt and Federico, I would say so. Obviously. Yeah, so okay, we'll wait a sec. Let's just see if we can get this open up in there. Should be sending a video off to my iPad now. Have I lost me? Need to make sure that I can get a hold of that. So, what's your thoughts, guys? Questions. Shapati Warakoti has just made a comment on my thing. Let's have a look now at that scenario again. Ireland beats New Zealand. Sorry, that won't happen. It's going to start very soon, that match, in a few hours' time. New Zealand beats Ireland, that's it. New Zealand are the first team which is officially through the semi-final. Then Australia, Afghanistan, Australia win. Australia will then be placed in the top two, pending the England match. So today we'll see whether what takes place there. So Group 1 will be decided by tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we'll know who's in Group 1's semi-final teams. Then Group 2 have their three matches: South Africa, Netherlands, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, Zimbabwe. Well, South Africa, Pakistan and India fighting out the position there, and you would argue that India and South Africa will go through without much fear at all of that not happening. It seems to me to be a fait accompli, I'm afraid. I shouldn't say I'm afraid, but all right, guys. Well, last thoughts. We could end this conversation very shortly if you want. Tell me what your thoughts are about the match. We've got 6 matches left before the tournament. I shouldn't be picking one of those. 6 matches left before the tournament actually ends in. 6 matches left before the tournament ends in semi-finals, which is significant, to say the least. 6 matches, guys. And those 6 matches are today. We have Ireland versus New Zealand. with the New Zealand team having been beaten by England, will be quick to want to repay for that, beat Ireland, and then make the semi-finals. And Australia and Afghanistan has to come all guns blazing, also at Adelaide Oval, and if they bat first, they've got to get 200, and they've got to get Afghanistan up for 100. Then they've got themselves a chance of being in the semi-final. But Afghanistan and Australia have a close match, weather permits, and it's only, point here or there. Australia have not made the semi-final. Sri Lanka versus England, and Sri Lanka could really disturb the whole a lot by winning that match that's in there against England, and then have a situation where Sri Lanka may even go through, but England would not go through. But no, New Zealand, it would be New Zealand, either Australia or England, depending on the result. If England were to lose, it would be New Zealand, Australia. That would turn everything around. That would then have Australia and India play in Sydney, and then you'll have New Zealand playing South Africa in Adelaide. So Australia winning, or Australia getting through the semi-finals, we'll see Australia play India, or England play India in the semi-final. The venues will actually change. If it's England, India, it's in Adelaide. If it's Australia, India, it'll be in Sydney. Why that happens, it's a good question. So the analysis, let's have a little look at, I love looking at Kohli's performances. We must take into account his performances. There's lithium stocks, it's interesting. So let's try and look at the stats. Is there some stats? Not these, let's go to overall stats. I wonder if we get this up here, overall stats. There we are. Stats home. Here we go. T20 internationals. Look at the batting situation. Okay. So in the T20 world of cricket, we have at the top of the list of all-time run getters is Virat Kohli from India. He's played 113 matches, had 105 innings, 31 not-outs, 3-9, 3-2 is his runs. So he's got the most runs, he's got the highest batting average of 53.13. He scored 36 50s, which is the highest number of 50s. He's close to the top fours, he's 7 off the top fours, and there's about 4th, 5th, and 6th, so he's by far the best. Robert Sharma's second. He's played 146 matches, and he scored 3-8-1-1. So he's a good 121 runs behind Kohli, but he's right up there. Guptill, who's not playing for New Zealand, is the third highest with 3-5-3-1. Then Baba Azam is fourth with 3-2-4-5 only after 96 matches. Sterling's in at fifth. He's still floating around. He'll be playing against New Zealand. He's on 3-1-4-4. Finch is actually next on 3-1-2. We always knock him, but he's got a good stat there. David Warner is second. So Australia's most prolific T20 run scorer is Finch, followed by Warner. And Rizwan comes in next. Hafiz from Pakistan. Butler rounds off the top 10 from England. Below that is Morgan, Malik. Williamson's up there too, surprisingly. Not that high up, but he's high up. Shakib Al-Zain, Rahul, Ducott, McCullum. So one's featuring this T20 World Cup. Number 1, Kohli. Number 2, Sharma. Number 4, Azam. Number 5, Sterling. 6, Finch. 7, Warner. 8, Rizwan. 10, Butler. 13, Williamson. 14, Al-Hussain. 15, Rahul. Ducott is on 16. A fair few. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the top 16 still playing. Guptill is floating around. Hafiz is no longer, Morgan's no longer, and Shoaib Malik's no longer. So they're the 4. So 12 of the top 16 players are in the World Cup in terms of run getters, which is pretty significant. But Kohli, I'll repeat it again. I mean, look at Kohli's record, which I've got to say. Have a good look at Kohli's. How are you going to do that? You can have a good look at Kohli's record there. Have a look at Kohli's record yourselves, guys. Virat Kohli, 113 matches, 105 innings, 31 not outs, 3-9, 3-2, 122 not out, which was against Afghanistan long ago, and yeah, batting at 53. Okay, better than that, I'm afraid. Can't get better than that. You want to go outside, have a look around? It's up to you guys. I mean, it's a bit sunnier out there. It's now, what, 1:30. We've got New Zealand versus Ireland today, and later on Australia versus Afghanistan. And then tomorrow, a match between the one that probably has the most significance, England versus Sri Lanka. Because if England win that reasonably well, Australia's out. Simple as that. Can't say any more than that at this point. No more questions, guys. You've been very, very, very quiet. I'll go to an hour. 56 minutes are gone. I could go an hour. And then we'll call us quickly. You've asked me some questions, guys. I don't. This is meant to be a Q&A on the state of play, which I've given already. Enough about them. One last time. New Zealand win today. They're number 1 in Group 1. England and Australia both win, which are expected. England will probably pip Australia and be the 2nd in Group 1. So New Zealand, England. Group 2, India and South Africa are very unlikely to lose their positions. No matter what. Pakistan would need a miracle, and that would be that both probably India and South Africa lose, and then they beat Bangladesh, then they might sneak in, and probably at the expense of South Africa. So, Group 1 is New Zealand. Group 1 is New Zealand with England. Group 2 is going to be probably India with South Africa, which means England and India play, and New Zealand and Pakistan, and New Zealand and South Africa play. New Zealand and South Africa play probably in Sydney, and England and India play in Adelaide, which would be not what we want in terms of locations anyway. That's the state of play as we see it. Look at that there, look at that little diagram there. We've got a diagram here. 12 o'clock on the 4th of November. Okay. A lot of people circling around the sites. So, any other questions, guys? I'm open to your questions. We're here, as I said, in a rather blue and white sky Melbourne, which is where the final will be in, well, just over a week. Today's date is the 4th of November. So, effectively, in 9 days' time, 9 days' time, week and 2 days, we'll see the match here in Melbourne between the 2 finalists. Hooray for the... Okay. England, India, New Zealand, South Africa. New Zealand, South Africa, I think New Zealand will go through. England, India, either England or India will go through. So, yeah, that's the question. Is it going to be England or is it going to be India playing New Zealand in the final? So is it going to be England or India playing New Zealand in the final here in Melbourne next week on the 13th? That is the question that we need to ask. Okay? And what's your answer again, guys? Any thoughts there? So a lot more people are awake now. With it now being 1:30, it's like 8 a.m. in the morning in India on a Friday. People are waking up to the show with a bit of luck. It'd be good to see. Alright, so. Alright, guys, I think I might just have a bit of a break now. We seem to be just picking up a bit more in terms of overall numbers. Any other questions? Let's hope that we have weather-wise good weather for the last 6 matches. The last 6 matches again are Ireland are playing New Zealand today in Adelaide, followed by, of course, Australia versus Afghanistan, also in Adelaide. Then tomorrow we've got a match between, it's going to be in Sydney, between England and Sri Lanka. And that'll be it. Probably see the end of Sri Lanka's campaign, Afghanistan and the likes of Ireland are also going to be out at that stage, leaving New Zealand with England and probably Australia also out. So that's going to be the final where that's Group 1. We move on to Group 2 on Sunday effectively. We have the match between Pakistan and Bangladesh, South Africa and Netherlands, and India versus Zimbabwe, which should see England, India and South Africa go through. That's what we would expect to see. Don't you? Or do you think differently, guys? Tell me. What do you think? Okay. We really have had a pretty mild day. All right, guys. I'm going to go out and have something to eat. I'm getting hungry. This big stomach needs to be filled. All right, boom, boom. Fat Boys across the road. Never tried it. I don't know whether Fat Boys is worth going to see. I'm not asking all the questions, guys. I can assume by that you haven't got any questions to ask. Is that what you're trying to tell me? You're well covered on what's going on? Again, New Zealand play today against Ireland. They win, they go to top Group 1. Australia play Afghanistan. They go into Group 2 second position temporarily, pending the third match, which will be Sri Lanka versus England, and therefore England will push Australia out, and it'll be New Zealand and England. Group 2 then takes place, and you've got the games where in Group 2 you've got, of course, South Africa to play Netherlands. You've also got Pakistan playing Bangladesh. So South Africa win that, they're through. They get it, and they're temporarily in the first, but they're going to be second. Then Pakistan beat Afghanistan. Pakistan beat Bangladesh. They go through. Pakistan does, or at least temporarily. And then India play Zimbabwe, and then they win. They push Pakistan out, and they take over the top position, and they will be in the top position of Group 2 with South Africa second. So Group 1, New Zealand with England. Group 2, India with South Africa. South Africa will play New Zealand in Sydney, and India and England will play in Adelaide, and the winner of those matches. So you probably could see a New Zealand versus England or India final. I can't see South Africa beating New Zealand. I'm sorry. That's not going to happen in my books. Do you have to agree with me? It's all about whether you agree with me or not, guys. But Virat Kohli's the best player in the world at T20 cricket. Statistically, in this tournament in Australia, it's Kohli. Let's not forget that. So we've got a comment from Runak Fugwego. Me after realising the Asia Cup at 2023 is going to happen in Pakistan. Yeah. Okay, it's almost funny. I think they've almost tried to crack a funny joke there. You would have to think that that's the way it's going. They're a train beeping. More questions, guys. Beep, beep, beep. Trains out there. More questions, guys. There are a few of you there online, so just ask me the questions. If not, we'll finish up. A bit of beeping going on there. I have to argue. No questions, guys. I'm not getting any questions from the people that are watching. Let's see India. Any questions, guys? You've got to ask me questions. If you don't ask me questions, we don't know what's going on. Ask me questions. This is 1, this is 4, this is 4. No questions. Clearly, we're going to have to wrap this sharply. All right, I'll see you guys later. We'll actually end the show now. I'll see you probably later today. We'll come up with some further live shows. We'll discuss what's going on in cricket. As I said to you, Group 1 is likely to be New Zealand once they beat Ireland today. The second division will be England when they beat Sri Lanka tomorrow, even despite the fact that Australia will beat Afghanistan. That's Group 1 sorted. New Zealand and England. Then you'll have Group 2. South Africa will beat Netherlands and India will beat Zimbabwe. We should put those two through. And despite Pakistan beating Bangladesh, that won't change the dynamics there. So that's what I would say. Stay tuned, guys. Again, view, like, and share, subscribe. Hit the notification button. We'll see each other soon. All the best. See you guys.